RaceRoom is getting a big update this week with multiple elements: a new overhauled graphics engine, a new multiplayer ranked racing system, new hypercars, and also a 90s French saloon car. It's a little bit more interesting than it sounds. We've been given early access to all of it, so let's take a look. I'm going to start by briefly touching on the graphics. Now, you are going to see the new updated visuals as we of course play the game in a little bit, but I'll give you a little bit of information first. Essentially, the Render graphics engine now has physically based rendering implemented, or PBR, which means the skies are more colourful, the reflections are more accurate, everything's done in real time, and honestly, it looks really good. And as you can see, it doesn't necessarily look like the graphics have been totally redone or transformed, it more just looks like it's all leveled up a couple of times. The sunlight projection is just so much more vivid and noticeable. You actually get glare and, you feel like sometimes you're blinded by the light. The shadows are also a lot more prominent too. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how this might affect dynamic time of day later down the line. Maybe this opens us up for nighttime racing in RaceRoom. Who knows? We don't know yet, but I'm hoping this is the foundations laid at least. So next up, we're going to take a look at the revamped multiplayer UI, because I know you're excited to see all of the new content, of course. But this, I think, is possibly more important in terms of fundamental foundations for getting more people playing RaceRoom and getting more enjoyment out of this gateway sim, as I like to call it. So if we go in multiplayer here, and I will emphasize this is just a work in progress build at the moment, this isn't the final version, so things might change slightly before it's released publicly in the coming days, but this is how it looks at the moment. So we have daily races, weekly races, and special events in separate tabs. So you're able to essentially pick what you want to do. And within that, so daily races, for example, you get a list of the upcoming races with the event start time. Instantly, this is just so much cleaner and easier to navigate in terms of ranked racing than the previous system, which we'll show on screen now. Beforehand, it felt like you were just joining public lobbies with a ranked option ticked, and it was all kind of integrated into the same thing, which just got a little bit messy. I really like the look of this with its own unique integration for ranked racing, and you can very clearly see when the next race is, that's open at least, how many people are signed up, how long the race is, and obviously if you want to find out more information, you've got the car and track there as well, you can click on it. So let's go DTM 1995. In here you've got the session settings, so how long each session is, you've got the weather, you've got whether it's fixed setup or not, standing start, incident point limits, damage, of course the circuit and the car you can select through a screen here. All looks very nice. We'll register as Yannick Dalmas's Opel Calibra, and boom, that's us registered. Now there's a tab along the top here that says My Signups, and in here, as you can see, we haven't actually done any races yet because we can't actually take part in these races. I'll be racing with you guys hopefully on stream later this week when this actually launches publicly. But as you can see now, I have the Daily Sprint 2 Norris Ring DTM race in my signups list, where I can either cancel and withdraw, or I can enter when the server starts in 29 minutes. You may have also noticed on the left-hand side here, we have our rating, reputation, global and national position, as well as, I'm assuming, the number of races we've actually done. You can also see this calendar, so we can skip ahead to future dates and basically sign up to events many days in advance. If I go back to the daily tab here, we can scroll all the way to the end of the day. We can actually scroll on to the next day as well, so I can sign up for a Porsche race tomorrow, for instance, which would then appear in the My Sign Up screen under the 24th of September. One thing that's really piqued my interest here is the My Results tab as well, so hopefully you'll be able to see each race as you complete it, how you got on, where you started, where you finished. It's great to have a little bit of a record of how your races have been going. I know a lot of people that sim race on a regular basis like to keep track of those kinds of things. And then of course we have community servers on the end, which I'm going to assume will take us back to the original server list that you'd be familiar with. This is currently the old UI. I don't know if this UI will be updated as well, but this is just your traditional server list that you would be familiar with on RaceRoom. So of course this is just a quick first look, but plenty to get excited about here. I think the one other big thing that could be crucial here is with these races you can actually sign up for an event rather than a specific server. So for example, in the past if I wanted to race DTM 95, I would pick a DTM 95 server that had space for me and I would join that. Now however, it looks like you can actually just register for the event, and of course what that might tell you is that there's going to be splits. If there are more drivers signed up than there are spaces in one particular server, that means of course we will have multiple splits, and hopefully they will be split by rating, for instance, so the faster drivers can all race against each other and the slower drivers, let's say, can also race against each other too and have a good competitive race with drivers of a similar ability level. So that's great to see. Something we haven't seen implemented in this sort of way with RaceRoom before. Previously, anytime there were races with splits, it was done through a leaderboard qualifying system, which was sort of separate and external and kind of a workaround. This hopefully introduces regular, common split racing that we see across many different sim racing services. I can't wait to get stuck into these races with you lot, of course, in the coming days, hopefully on stream, as I mentioned before. But for now, I'm going to show you the new content. I can't believe I'm saying this, but let's talk about Renault Lagunas. This car is the latest to be added to RaceRoom's Super Tourers roster. It is, of course, the Williams Renault Laguna. Now, I'm not going to spend the whole clip here talking about Super Tourers and how great they were. We've already done a full video about Super Tourers and their implementation on RaceRoom. You can check that out via the link in the description below. But this Laguna is a true icon of the British Touring Car Championship in the late 90s. As I say, it was actually developed and run by Williams, who of course had Renault engines in Formula 1, so there was a technical partnership between Williams and Renault at the time, and that meant these cars were very, very competitive. Eventually, Alan Menu would drive the Laguna to championship victory in 97, winning 12 of the 24 races in that iconic blue and yellow livery. Then that season would also see the British Touring Car debut of Jason Plato, who would become an all-time British Touring Car legend and multiple champion as well. RaceRoom has also included a number of other liveries that were used on the Laguna during those years in the British Touring Cars. You have the 1998 and 99 versions of the Nescafe Blend green and gold car, the one I'm driving right now, driven by Plato, Menu, and also Jean-Christophe Bouillon, who was actually the Williams test driver in Formula 1, and then did a campaign in the British Touring Cars in 1999 in this very car. And you have a couple of cool independent liveries in there as well, the 1998 Tommy Rustad car, and also the Will Hoy car from 1999, the same livery that Russell Spence crashed over the barrier at Oulton Park in 99. Not only is this car a British Touring Car legend, it's also a Toka Touring Car legend for gamers growing up in the late 90s and early 2000s. People like me. It sounds amazing, it looks awesome despite being a Renault Laguna. And it just adds to the ever-growing list of Super Tourers. You can now race so many different cars on RaceRoom from this category. Yes, they're scattered about a little bit, and there's British Touring Cars, there's also STW cars from Germany and Scandinavian cars, there's all sorts of liveries. And to be fair, some of the models don't look perfect. There's some slightly odd dimensions every so often. But still, they're awesome to drive. The fields are getting bigger and bigger. And for online racing, especially with the new ranked multiplayer system, Super Tourers are just going to be absolutely epic. So many cars to choose from now. So many colours, so many sounds. Cannot complain about more of these in the game. From one golden era of motorsport to another that is literally playing out in real time, it feels like. Hypercars. Now when I say hypercars, I am of course talking about the top class of the World Endurance Championship, not souped-up supercars essentially. RaceRoom Racing Experience has added 3 LMDh cars, the Lamborghini SC63 that I'm driving now, the Porsche 963 and the BMW M Hybrid V8. All of them are LMDh cars, not LMH cars. I'm not going to go into all of the nitty-gritty details of what the differences are because it would take me all day, and we've actually done a full video where we talk about the various hypercar experiences across all of sim racing, and you can find a link to that video in the description below. Now we can add RaceRoom to the ever-growing list of sims that have this category of car. I am driving it around Charade because it's RaceRoom and I can pick all of these awesome, crazy circuits that you wouldn't otherwise get to experience from other titles. I'm driving at sunset so you can have a closer look at the new PBR updates. And it's interesting that this Lamborghini SC63 is coming now to RaceRoom because, of course, in real life, this car is about to do its final ever race in official factory program, at least. Hopefully an independent team can pick up the car and continue to race it around the world, but we could be coming to the end of the life cycle of the SC63, just as it's coming to RaceRoom. The Porsche 963 and BMW M Hybrid V8 probably have a little bit longer to go, I would say. Now there's plenty to talk about with these cars. I'm going to start with how they feel actually, because this is actually the first prototype car to be released to RaceRoom in a couple of years. Things have changed a lot on RaceRoom in those last couple of years, and I've always been fairly critical of the way the cars feel when it comes to high downforce and high performance machinery on RaceRoom. I'm a bigger fan of the touring cars, and I don't mind the GTs, but sometimes I find the stuff with a lot of downforce can just feel a bit odd. This is a good start, I have to say. I've driven all 3 of the cars now briefly, and straight away I'm getting a nice natural feeling with this car. There's no ultra realism that you would maybe find in the feeling of the car on the likes of LMU or iRacing. When you come out of the pits, you don't feel like you're on cold tires, so this isn't the absolute peak of simulation in terms of the driving experience, I would say. But straight away, the car feels grounded, the force feedback's nice and detailed. It feels like one of the better experiences you can have on RaceRoom, which is not something I've said very often about this style of car on this platform. I would put it straight up there with the likes of AMS2 in terms of how rewarding and natural it feels to drive out of the box. Now, KW Studios have said that this is a very meticulous and realistic implementation of the complex hybrid system, and it is very complex. So we're going to look into some of the things here. So let's touch on how the battery works. Down the bottom right, you can see in the HUD, we now have a VE percentage bar, which stands for virtual energy. That's essentially an alternative to a fuel number that's used in the World Endurance Championship. It's not a real tangible thing, but it does affect pit stop times, it does affect the team's ability to continue in a race. It's complicated, but think of it like an alternative to fuel, but that's virtual. The battery percentage above it isn't like fuel. It's essentially a battery that you need to keep charged. You do that by braking, and it regenerates power into the battery, and that is then used to power the electric motor along with the ICE, the internal combustion engine, to power these LMDh cars. I was going to jump to the car setup menu to show you a few things in there, but just quickly before I do that, I want to drive around a bit more of the lap because I'm really enjoying the driving experience of this car around here. It's just awesome. I know it's probably a bit tight and twisty for a car like this, but if you compare it to the likes of a street circuit, it's mega. And you can, of course, change traction control, and it's the usual RaceRoom system of 1 to 6, so it's not quite, realistic. I was going to say you can change the ABS as well, but there was a corner coming up before I had the chance to demonstrate. So the first thing you'll notice in the general section of the car setup screen is brake migration. This is a tool used by teams with hypercars to essentially shift the brake balance in particular braking zones depending on the speeds and how much pressure you're applying to the brake pedal. So that's something you can adjust. It's here in RaceRoom, which is good to see. You also have a fuel level. Now, of course, we have 100% virtual energy in a virtual energy tank. I can't see anywhere on the setup screen at this stage to actually adjust your starting level of virtual energy. It seems to always be 100. To be fair, in real life, there would be no reason ever to start your car out of the garage with anything other than 100%. Due to the technicalities and confusing nature of virtual energy, but that's fine. We can, of course, though, put a low fuel number in and we will still run out of fuel in the first few laps, even if our virtual energy tank is much higher. I should be clear here as well that during pit stops, you do actually add virtual energy and fuel back into the tank. It's not as confusing as the likes of Le Mans Ultimate with a separate fuel ratio. It does all of that automatically, but we'll take a look at the pit menu a little bit later on. The other element we need to take a look at here can be found within the electronics tab because we have the motor generator unit settings. So this is where you can essentially adjust how the hybrid is deployed. And you can see here we have 3 active presets plus an automatic option. So these can be adjusted in the car setup menu, and then while you're driving, you can flick between the various presets. We can't adjust regeneration rates, that's locked to 100%. We can, however, for each preset, adjust the percentage of discharge, which is how much battery power is actually being used along with the ICE. You may have also noticed on the right here, there's a little description for what the discharge setting actually affects. That's not true though. It says higher settings will increase acceleration and top speed. That doesn't happen in these hypercars. It just changes the way in which the power is produced. So there will be no performance impact. That is an issue with the UI. It's been acknowledged by RaceRoom, and hopefully it'll be fixed by the time you get your hands on this. If not, it'll be changed very soon. So don't listen to that. With all of that stuff in mind though, I don't want to get too bogged down in the minutiae of the implementation of the hybrid system at this early stage. It doesn't matter that much to a lot of players who are just going to be jumping on RaceRoom and having a quick race, or even an endurance race. It will matter a little bit more in terms of energy and fuel, but you know what I mean. Because the main thing, of course, is that you can now do hypercar racing on RaceRoom, one of the most popular forms of sim racing today, and one of the most popular forms of motorsport to watch at the highest level as well. And you can also do multi-class racing with GT3s in the field as well, like I have on right now. The cars all sound fantastic and authentic, they look good, there are plenty of liveries to choose from all of the cars, especially the Porsche. They've got pretty much every livery that's ever been on a 963. It's going to be very interesting to see how these quickfire ranked daily races play out with these cars, because I think they'll be ideal for those sprint race formats. You're not on track for long, you don't need to worry about fuel and energy too much, you don't need to worry about tyre warm-up or deployment or regen. It's just a case of racing these cars. And then for the longer endurance events, there are still, of course, things to think about. When you pit, for example, I've got the pit stop menu up here. We've got the choice here to add fuel, and virtual energy has been taken into account there. So you can see for every litre I add, there's also a percentage of virtual energy that's added. So that's there at least. When you do longer races, you're going to have to think about that. You don't have to worry about changing the fuel ratio like you do on Le Mans Ultimate. That's all done by the game. But I did see something weird, which was when I max out the fuel, I still don't seem to be able to add 100% virtual energy to the tank. I can only add up to 94%, which it's a bit weird, but anyway, I said I wasn't going to get bogged down. The reason being, given RaceRoom's current place within the sim racing space, this is a very important update, but in my opinion, the new content is not the most important part. In fact, it's probably the least important. It's good to have modern race cars, it's always good to have new modern race cars added to a sim, but the update in graphics is going to make a difference, because RaceRoom has always been lagging behind in that area, I would say, compared to its PC rivals. Most importantly, though, has to be the multiplayer UI. Yes, we've already had ranked racing on RaceRoom for a long time, but it's never been super clear or clean to use. We've never had split sorted by rating as well, so having this new system is really going to help clean things up, and I think to be a talked about sim at the highest end, the upper echelons of PC sim racing, you have to have a well implemented ranking system like we've seen on Le Mans Ultimate, iRacing, all of these big hitters. And this is only going to help things for RaceRoom Racing Experience. One final thing I haven't touched on yet is the price. And that's because I didn't actually know the prices when I started recording this video, but I have been told now, and it's been confirmed, Hypercars will be €7.99 each car, and for the Renault Laguna Super Tourer, it will be €5.99, in line with the rest of the Super Tourers available. We do want to hear from you, of course, what you think of this update. Are you excited to try the new content? Are you more excited for the multiplayer UI and the new ranked service? Let us know in the comments below. And of course, subscribe to the Traxion channel for more racing game videos in future. Do also keep an eye on the TraxionGG website for more RaceRoom updates as and when we get them, because we'll try and cover everything on there. But until I see you next time, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.